Hello there, everybody. He says, checking the microphone's all working, which I hope it is. I hope it is. It's Wednesday, and I know that some people are still getting very kerfuffled about the whole idea that we're doing Wednesday shows. But you know what? We'll be fine. I think I've got somebody who's just entered the stream, because I have been waiting on my guests to join us. But we're currently live at the moment, just doing this countdown, and I'm wanting to share the bits and pieces and the stream to an Englishman in San Diego. Yes, there it is. So if you are a follower of that particular page, excellent. Welcome along. Yeah, we've got two great guests that are going to be joining us imminently. I've been told they're making tea, which is great. I have made tea. I've made Yorkshire tea. I've made a very, very large pot of it because I am showing support, solidarity for PG Tips and Yorkshire Tea and Twinings and everybody else who's decided to make a stand, because my word, did it all kick off yesterday. I mean, it was a strange day for tea generally because there was a woman. It was a troll. Let's be fair. An American woman with her daughter showing the internet how to make British tea, and it involved a microwave. Shut up, is what I say to you. Okay, that's not how it's done. You follow my social media feed, find the picture I posted, which is the quote from Douglas Adams on how to make a cup of tea, and that is how you make a cup of tea. As simple as. We've got ourselves, like I say, our all the chats that are open. So it's on Twitch, on YouTube, on Periscope, Twitter, and also on Facebook. Please do comment. Let everyone know. Let us know if you're watching, where you're watching from. Toby Todolino, is YouTube not on the list? Is it still not showing up? Hello there, Toby. He's quoting on. He's saying hello on Facebook. No, YouTube's there. I'll check the restream and make check what's going on. But by all accounts, it's going out to YouTube. Yep, it's going out. So we're all up and running by all accounts. Microwave tea. I know, it was so weird. Sean Thomas, YouTube link not up at the moment. Okay, I'm going to just check everything, because by all accounts we should be up and running on YouTube as well. This is where I now click on YouTube, and it all goes horribly wrong. And we have our guests as well. They're kind of sitting in the background while I do this technical stuff and just check everything's working, because people are saying that the YouTube link's not up. I want to make sure that's all working. Oh, good Lord. Okay. According to this, it's not going up on YouTube, which is really kind of annoying. Okay. That's really frustrating. But technical issues. What can we do? I mean, I will upload the video to YouTube. If you could spread the word and let everyone know that we are live, we are up and running. But yeah, I've got my tea. I understand the chaps have gotten their tea as well. So it's time to introduce my guests for today. Oh, look at this! Is that a Black Flag cup? Mug?
Yes, it's for coffee though, and I don't drink coffee.
Okay. Fair enough. Coffee and me, it's my particular kryptonite. I cannot stand the smell. I can't do coffee at all.
I don't mind coffee sweets, like sweets that are little taste like coffee. Yeah, it's fine, but actual coffee, no, get the hell out of here.
I know. It's so weird.
We're civilized here.
Hello there, Alex. Have you got your tea to hand? Oh, look at this.
Yeah, unbranded. Sorry.
I feel like we should cheers, but I'm worried I'll spill it all over my laptop.
Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, I have history. This is a relatively new laptop. This is about a month old now, because I did an interview with J.H. Williams III, It wrapped up at 11 o'clock because of the way his
Does that
time
require
zones
a
roll.
new laptop?
Yeah, it did. It very much did.
Okay.
But
Just
I
for
had
the honor of talking to J.H. Williams III.
well, I was getting into the mood of the thing, and I had a pint of cider, and I had it right next to the laptop, and it was right. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. It's been an hour of a great chat. I'm now going to take my half a cider. Cheers. Put it down, and it went down all over the laptop and fried it. And it was just like, oh, and not only that, but it's on camera. It's on YouTube.
Even better.
It's even better. It's just so bad. Hello, everybody. Welcome along to Talking Con, a cup of tea with Englishman in San Diego. My name is Leonard Sultana, and each and every Wednesday and Sunday we talk yada, yada, yada. We talk comics, we talk Comic-Cons, we talk interesting things with interesting people, of which I have two joining us today. We have ourselves...
One and a half.
Yes, you are. Deal with it. I mean, this is where...
about my weight.
This is where Alex struggles, because Alex struggles with any kind of compliments or any kind of... he's a very modest chap, but he's a right...
I make up for that, though. I balance it out. I'm fine with compliments. I accept them, no problem.
There was a time, because a few years ago now, Deck... I went for dinner with Deck in New York, and there was a Marvel editor there. I think it was Amy Reeder was there as well. And we were kind of going around the table introducing ourselves. And, you know, Deck was being very nice. And, you know, there was a Marvel editor in the room and just went, oh, you know, introduce yourself. And I went, I'm... And there was this sort of audible, like, ellipsis. I went, I'm Alex. And Deck just started pissing himself laughing. And he just explained to this editor, he just turned around and went, sorry, just in case you were wondering, Alex just had a brain fart there where he was worried that if he told you his surname, you'd think he was arrogant.
What?
Yeah. Because I knew Alex a little, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. Plus, I mean, I've been there. I remember, you know, there was a time where I was very shy, and I went to, I remember the Bristol convention was the big convention in the UK, and I saw like Duncan Fegredo and Sean Phillips, and I just didn't have the stones to talk to anybody. It was all the small press people I talked to, but I remember, because I think similarly there's you know, culturally with Irish and English, there's you don't want to be seen to be an arsehole, and I could tell that's what Alex was going through, was like, I don't want to come across like an arsehole. So I
did anyway.
No, you didn't. No, if anything, you came across as endearing, I think. But the nice thing is, like, I don't need to work. I'm long past coming across as endearing. So I took that bullet for Alex.
Well, I mean, I love Alex's surname. I think it's... I mean, there was a thing on Twitter today. Was it today or yesterday? And someone said, when was the last time you were bullied? And I turned around and said, okay, do you know my surname? I mean, it's Leonard Sultana. I got shit piled on me from the word go. So yeah, it was fun and games.
Shalvey's an Irish name, but it's not a common Irish name. I didn't know anybody with my name growing up. It's not really a name you can... Remember one time a guy in school was trying to come up with a nickname for me, and there was nothing. You can't really do anything with Shalvey, you know.
No.
Deck, you're fucked. But yeah, there's too many Declans though. So in Ireland, so that I escaped that, thankfully.
All right, okay. So there's plenty of that.
If I tell you my school nickname, do you promise never to repeat it to the internet?
Sure. We'll keep it between ourselves. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Pot noodle.
Pot noodle.
Where did that even? Okay. Paknadel, pot noodle. Okay.
That's pretty good.
It's okay.
Not bad, is it? I mean,
it sticks.
That's an 8-year-old one. That's a real young one.
But they're the good ones, you know. They're the ones that, like, they cut through. You know, if you're trying to come up with something now, you're going to intellectualize it too much. You know, but that doesn't quite work. You know, but kids they just cut through all that stuff. I did when I was in school. My nickname for a little while was Spider-Man, because I had drawn a Spider-Man comic, and and I was showing to somebody in the school bus. But like, somebody calling me Spider-Man didn't bother me at all. You know, like, oh, Spider-Man. I was like, thanks.
There was one when my parents moved up north. I went up onto the moors. Like, I had this sort of little digital SLR, and there are all these kids waiting up there, and like, because pot noodle, I think there's like a modicum of creativity behind that. I mean, someone's clearly thought about that. And I just went up, and I had this thing around my neck, and there's this group of kids, and again, talking about the wheels turning, there was a moment, and they just went, "All right, camera prick." I was like, I'm camera prick.
What the hell?
It's like that thing in
I'm going to look at something that you have on you, and then
that's it. It's isn't it in the first episode of The Inbetweeners? He's just called briefcase because he had a briefcase. That's perfect. You don't need anything else. It doesn't really need to have anything to do with you. Just he had a briefcase. Oh, they're amazing because you can't really fight them. It's like
no.
No,
so
you're absolutely right.
Len, joining you this evening, you have Spider-Man and camera prick.
That is good. That's the clip right there. I'm banging that up. But okay, I'll try and get through this then. Alex Paknadel, writer of comics such as Arcadia and Turncoat for Boom. Remind me who Assassin's Creed Uprising was for. Was that for Titan?
With the lovely Dan Waters. Okay.
And I've also, in my little intro example, Friendo for the incomparable and staggering Friendo for Vault Comics, which is just an astonishing book.
Thanks, man.
There you go. That's me blowing smoke up your ass for a bit. Thank you very much indeed. Both of which, by the way, or all of those titles are in that cupboard, and I'm not able to reach them because it means tearing out all of my comics to get through. They're all in my comics are kind of hidden away because I live with my wife and I live with my father, so they can't really just be out. So they have to be kind of spirited away, as it were.
Leonard, my arse has a smoke deficiency.
Okay, fair enough. In that case, may I also introduce master artist Declan Shalvey, award-winning artist and creator of such incredible works, Moonlight. There's a book which I would like to also show, which is The Art of Declan Shalvey. But I've been reading it. It's upstairs. I've been reading it recently, so that's up there somewhere. But he's also...
Sorry, the point, we're supposed to be looking at the art.
I don't.
Sorry, I'm going to stop making jokes. I'm being an awful prick.
I am down for that. Okay. And also the creator of a great new book, which we're going to be talking a little bit later, which is Bog Bodies, which is, yes, applause is definitely required because that's also an amazing piece of work. But we'll get into that in a bit. Yeah, I mean, I know that you two are acquainted with each other. You've met up at conventions throughout the years. And I mean, can you remember the first time you your paths crossed?
Not that long ago, really. I'd know a lot of the British guys a long time from going to shows in the UK for like the last 10 years. But I'd say, Alex, you came to Dublin. That's how I met you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was when Turncoat dropped, and it was you, me, and Owen Maron. We all went out and had barbecue. No, it was lovely. God, it was a few years ago, though, wasn't it? But
a few years ago, yeah. I wouldn't know you as long as I know a lot of the other British guys, but I mean, yeah. So you already had like a lot of people I met like when I was in Small Press when they were in Small Press. But by the time I met you, you already had like a Boom book out.
Yeah, I was already massive.
Well, like you were working in American publishing. Like it took me.
Yeah, no. I just it was odd because I was really intimidated by you when I met you. But you just but you just sort of, do you remember you just sort of came into Forbidden Planet and just sort of grabbed me for dinner, and it was just really kind of disarming. And like I'm always, I'm horribly kind of awkward anyway. But it was just really kind of lovely and low key. Yeah, never forgot that. It was just really lovely and welcoming. So yeah, thank you.
I'm a hero. What can I say? I know it's always nice when people breeze through Dublin, and I don't get out much, so it's always nice to just kind of, especially in a like we were saying, we meet each other at conventions, but a non-convention environment is kind of better sometimes because you actually get to have some the performative element that happens
Yeah.
sometimes at conventions is gone. So you can genuinely just like have a chat, and you don't need to worry about, you know, a certain party happening or any of those kind of things. So yeah, they're always really nice.
When it comes to kind of catching up with people at conventions or even like at signings or whatever, and you do have, you meet up with fellow creatives, how much do you have to cut through the comics conversation before you can have a conversation about bands and favorite, you know, football teams and, you know, non-comic stuff, you know, just kind of, and have an actual bullshit conversation with somebody? I mean, how do you kind of find yourselves having to, okay, let's just stop for a second, let's just have a conversation here?
Well, I don't know about Alex, but like I really like talking shop anyway.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, I quite enjoy it because it's the only thing I know how to do. So it's the only thing I have any kind of I wouldn't say authority on, but anything that you could actually take anything I say seriously. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it's different with every person. Some people you don't want to have a conversation with. Well, what I find as an artist, a tough thing for me is like if it's somebody whose work I really like, you want to ask them lots of type of nerdy art questions, but you don't know them well enough to ask that. So you're trying to come up with bullshit to talk about. I remember that was being a problem earlier on, but I don't know. I guess just with any conversation, we're all nerds, so you'll find something to nerd out about.
Yeah, we've got, I mean, just a quick reminder to everyone who's watching, like I say, I have put a message up on Twitter. Yes, we are having the technical issue of not getting the video up onto YouTube. So, but we are on all the other platforms. If you do want a question to the guys, do let us know. And we've got this comment from David Robertson. There's stuff to talk about other than comics. Well, at the moment, apparently so, but at the moment, little
at the moment, there's too much to talk about.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, if you leave our borders and sort of look to the world and everything, it does get a little bit. The conversation is all over the place. In terms of the lockdown, how have you been with your lockdowns, the pair of you? Because when I've spoken to people on the show over the last 2 months, when you talk to comic creatives, it's a case of, okay, I'm locked away in a room. I'm missing my friends and family. I'm just kind of like a mushroom, just kind of locked away from everyone. That's how I am anyway. So there's
like
no real
mushroom.
There's no real change.
I mean, no, I mean,
I missed that mushroom.
It's beautiful. I love it, but where did that come from?
I'm trying to like just put them away to.
It absolutely works.
Moist and I smell.
Okay, this is taking me back to my DJ stuff because yes, most DJs do. But there we go.
Well, my lockdown is about here.
Yes.
I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, but no, I'm fine. I'm actually about to break it. In Ireland, the restrictions have lifted a good bit, so you're allowed to meet people in groups of 6, and you're allowed to travel within the county as of Monday. So I'm going to be seeing a friend this evening, like 2 of my friends. So that's actually, I realized I haven't seen a group of more than 1 person in months. So I'm actually kind of getting excited now. I'm sure it'll be very anticlimactic. but to answer your question, yeah, it's been fine. I had like I know this for Alex, but like I had 2 weeks where I didn't have a job, which was kind of a little worrying because it hasn't happened to me in a long time. But I know it's happening to a lot of people right now since the diamond shut down. But then I got one, so I'm fine as long as I have something to work on. If I don't have anything to work on, I go loopers. But you know, I mean, I think I felt it after a month and a half. Even though I stay inside all the time, I punctuate every 3 or so weeks by going out and going to the pub or something. And after none of that at all for a couple of months, I think it started hitting me around then. Or I don't know if it's like this for you, Alex, but when it happened, everybody was just kind of screaming into the void, and I made a decision to just block it out and just try keep making stuff and be productive. And it's very hard to kind of you lose a lot of your enthusiasm to make stuff when everyone's just kind of screaming.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so
Alex?
I made a point of like ignoring it all, and I think maybe 2 weeks ago I realized when things started kind of coming back up again, like they have, that I was a little burnt out from trying to keep my spirits up.
Mm.
Fair enough, Alex. I mean, for yourself, I mean, was it? I mean, when I've spoken to people, it's either been a case of it's been really difficult to find the motivation, just kind of to keep creative, or there's just been this. Oh, right, okay, I have this natural focus now, this focus that's been kind of put onto me, where I can just concentrate on this and something that's in front of me. I mean, what's it been like for you?
No, I mean, all right. I mean, in all candor, I think I was probably one of the krill people that Deck's talking about. I mean, I'll just be upfront about it. I found it very difficult to get back on track. I mean, I do it because I'm a professional, but I was, it was, yeah, it was like sort of trying to work with a lathe on your back, because everything's fire. But I mean, I mean, I've just about caught up with myself, I think, and nobody's, everything's going to come out when it's supposed to come out, and everything's, as far as I can tell, good. But I mean, it's funny, man. I mean, like some people seem to have a bit of a kind of mini creative renaissance as a result, and others didn't. I mean, do you know what though? The funny thing was, I mean, just arrogant, I suppose, but I think I fell into that trap immediately of right, I have to come up with something completely new that somehow rationalizes this and makes sense of all this, and it's going to kind of really speak to our moment. And I spoke to Ram in my studio, and he just said, no, leave it 2 years. So what do you mean is we don't know what this means yet.
Yeah, true.
And he's absolutely right. But
yeah, I think that, like I said, there's the pressure to like, well, this is the thing of our moment, and this we need to talk about this. But like with any culture, like the time to do something about 9/11 would have been the week after 9/11. Everything changed. The world changed in so many ways, and it's like why 24-hour news sucks is because all you're doing is hearing the bad, and then when you get things in perspective, things make more sense. And you don't want to be making something about the roof coming down.
While the roof's coming down, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, while the roof, yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, and he's absolutely right.
What was what did you get up to in terms of that? You hear about the lockdown goals, those things that you okay, I'm going to take up yoga. Oh, that whole bread making crap that kind of did the rounds. I mean, I kind of poured myself into doing the hangouts and doing the podcasts and organizing another project, which I'll be talking about at the end of the show, which is in July. But just kind of focusing on that, and also focusing on the health of the people in the house. So there was something to focus on. Was there any hobbies or anything that you decided to kind of take on and do to occupy your time? Declan first.
No. No. I have nobody in my life to care for, not a child or significant other, and my mum's the other side of the country. But no, I mean, I'm lucky. Like I said, I can do whatever really. There's no one depending on me as such. So, I think I tried to pivot a little. I tried looking into. All of a sudden, for the first time in my career, Marvel work had paused, and creator-owned wasn't quite an option in the same way because the infrastructure had kind of gotten all clogged up. So I started looking into, how feasible it would be to do something digitally. I came up with. I decided to give myself a project I would write and draw. So I kind of I made more work for myself, even though none of it paid. I just, like I said before, if I had nothing to do, I'd go crazy. So my lifestyle was exactly the same, except I've been trying to get out more in order to be a functioning human. But now then the virus kind of stopped that, so that was frustrating. So I just piled work on, basically, like work as in stuff that didn't pay, but stuff that kept me occupied. And kind of that kind of took me through, and now the things are kind of, the trains are going back on the tracks for me at least. I have all this kind of development stuff that I probably wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise, you know. But I didn't do anything that was good for me.
Getting the jump on stuff was, I know a couple of people who jump on stuff, and I think it was a really good thing to do.
It sounds. I mean, all things, just, you know, putting up in the fact that like the virus has killed so many people and all the bad things that it's done, of course, but like culturally, for the most part, everyone's had to adjust. And I think if there's a silver lining, I think it's just kind of made a lot of people stop and take a breath. Because I know you, Alex, but like I was going 100 miles an hour, and have been for years. It's not like me to stop and like just kind of take stock and take a breather for a little while. Like I said, I kept myself busy, but I haven't been working at like 100%. I've probably been working at like 75%. Scrubs is on 4OD, so I've been watching a shitload of that. And I rewatched all of Parks and Rec and Community. I've been making sure that I keep my spirits are up, but I'm getting stuff done. But I do think it's kind of, you know, everything I had planned to do for the next year and a half is now off. Isn't really happening anymore, as far as I can tell. So I'm just trying to, you know, having to adjust. I think is probably good for everyone, for the industry too. I think with all the stuff that's changing, I think this is going to happen anyway. It's just with any industry, all the repercussions from COVID, every industry is having to adjust. Same as, you know, conventions clearly aren't a thing for you right now, so you have to adjust. And it's been interesting to see it all happen. Sorry, I started to ramble.
No,
it's a funny thing because Dec and I were both at a retailer summit called Comics Pro in Portland.
You're one of the last humans I've seen in real life.
Same here, right? So, you know, but it's really funny because a lot of the chat, well, not funny, but not funny, curious, but a lot of the changes that we were kind of discussing, you know, things that we thought were kind of coming down the pike, industry wise, that we were sort of talking about at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, as Dec just said, you know, they're kind of happening, but on a vastly accelerated timescale. All the things that we thought were going to happen like in the next 3-4 years are now happening in the next 3-4 months. Which is, and I mean, it's terrifying and it's sort of all breakneck, but it's weird. It seems to be that, you know, all the sort of tendencies that, all the sort of vulnerabilities and absolutely every, I mean, and I'm not talking about comics, but, you know, every sort of vulnerability in absolutely every supply chain on Earth, I think, has been sort of exposed for everybody to see. And, you know, it's going to be a sort of scramble now. You know, there's going to be some sort of radically new configuration, whatever that is. I mean, I don't know what it is, what it's going to be, but it's really bizarre because we were kind of talking about these things a few months ago as though they were kind of, you know, and they were still kind of you know, there was still urgency because it was, you know, oh, well, you know, we need to watch this because in the next 3 to 4 years we anticipate these things are going to happen, and then all of a sudden it's right there. Yeah, it's bizarre, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, we were at Comics Pro. The big things were 5G rumors. You know, the DC one, and Didio had left DC over that weekend. And like those
were going to be the biggest thing that's going to happen in comics in 2020.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden everything changed, you know. So it's and it was interesting to be so into like in the weeds of the direct market right after the direct, just before the direct market had a real significant well, wobble isn't even the word. It was just absolutely completely stalled. Yeah, I remember I was thinking like, what was the point of going? But I was listening to a podcast where somebody was saying that basically things like these world events tend to be stress tests for every industry, and you know, comics was probably due. That's well, not due, but like this, it's a stress test for the industry, and I think it's showing where some of the holes are. And while I love the direct market, and I'm, you know, my preferred way to read a comic is a single issue, you know, 22 page book. I think it's really good for the medium and the industry to diversify slightly into other areas, and it looks like that's what's happening, which, you know, in the long run will probably be a good thing. I don't know what's going to happen, or you know, it's down to it's clearly going to be companies, TC. But it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure.
I mean, I was really curious to know what your thoughts when, number one, when Diamond shuttered its doors, because for myself, it just seemed that decision happened so fast that it was almost. It felt to me that they had almost had that in mind for a while. That there was something that if something like this happened, the fact that it was a decision that was made almost instantly. The fact that they were looking at the numbers of the retailers and how they were going to pay their bills and the relationship with distribution. The fact that it happened that fast was it was an interesting dynamic, especially with the reaction that everyone gave as well. That everyone reacted as though, right, okay, this will be the end of the monopoly. Then this will be a new dynamic, and that we'll see new distribution networks opening, and everything just happened so fast. I mean, what was your reactions when that happened, and also when DC made their decisions in recent weeks?
Alex, you know?
Alex,
You'll let me.
Yeah, I'm going to let you have that one.
No,
what was your thoughts when Diamond shut its doors?
To be honest, I thought it was. I mean, not to kind of get into the long grass with it, but
by all means,
it seemed to me sort of fairly kind of, but fairly sort of consistent with sort of just-in-time delivery in the era of high globalization. You know, I mean, Chinese factories went off like that because there is just a big red button with all of these kind of supply chains that you can just press and everything kind of grinds to a halt. I mean, it's I suppose yeah. I mean, it's the sort of the armadillo principle, isn't it? You know, you just kind of curl up into a ball and just sort of wait the storm out. I mean, that seemed sensible to me. It was funny though, because, you know, once that happened, you know, I mean, without getting into it, because, you know, I mean, I have friends all over the shop, but it was interesting to see. Again, I mean, Dex sort of pointed it out earlier on. You know, you really see just how sort of interconnected that ecosystem really is. Because, you know, on one hand, you know, you got sort of some people saying, well, you know, we should open this thing up immediately because, you know, people need to be paid. And then, but if you do that too quickly, then other people don't get paid. And, you know, you start to realize that, you know, we really are a kind of very delicate rainforest, I guess. And if we don't sort of all sort of move together sort of with purpose as one, there's a sort of attendant risk that you'll sort of, you know, leave people behind. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, as with anything, I mean, like the abiding sense I've had for the past 4 years is that it's been like watching Titans battle. You know, do you know what I mean? I'm just powerless. And
we're freelancers at the end of the day. Like, we don't have any say in things.
You know, and it's just a funny thing, but just in general, just kind of just stand back and just sort of going, well, you know, okay, so Diamond is sort of adopting, you know, Diamond have to kind of entrench, but we do too. You know, we've got to kind of look after ourselves, and we've got to feed ourselves, and I mean, that's really just sort of wait out the storm, really. And just hope that you sort of get through to the other side. But I mean, in terms of sort of DC, you know, I haven't done any work for DC, but you know, some of my best friends work for DC, and I mean, I know that there are sort of strong feelings on all sides, but I mean, at the end of the day, not to put you, and by the way, I mean, this extends to retailers as well. You know, sure. I'm not saying otherwise, but I mean, my primary concern is that my friends stay and work.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the sort of.
When the shutdown happened, I mean, I was suspected it was going to happen at some stage, and like somebody at a warehouse was going to get COVID, and it had all shut down. You know, I was expecting it to happen, but I was pissed off because so many people that I know, you know, their jobs were just taken away like that.
Yeah.
and then it happened to me, and I was very annoyed. But but what was I will say I was getting pissed off with retailers personally, because anybody who tried to come up with a solution to the problem was just getting fucked out of it because it wasn't the solution that. Now, I won't say retail. I don't mean all retailers. Some I think are more forward thinking. Some are more stuck in the past. But anytime somebody tried to come up with something which to me was like, okay, this will get people paid, so it's a good thing, was just getting shot down. And anything I saw from like some bigger retailers, a lot of it was putting your finger in their ears, hoping it'll all go back. And I just don't think that's going, like what I was saying before, the industry has been diversifying slowly. This is going to force to probably to diversify more quickly, but it's going to diversify either way, and it's just not going to go back. I mean, now the way what happened with DC, it's definitely not going back to the way it was going to. And I mean, I love retailers, I love comic shops, I don't want them to go away, but like I think I was reading, like, it's more like we don't know if there's going to be a second wave. If there is, this could happen all over again. And I don't want us to be in this situation in 6 months' time. The possibility of further disruption to me is more likely than it was before. It's already happened. So we need to kind of start. Like, I was thinking, the reason I was thinking of doing something digitally was because so I can make something. I can write something, I can draw something, I can color it, I can letter it, whatever. So I can make a comic. There are people who will read it. The thing in the way is printers or distributors. Like, so the thing that like makes it happen is what's in the way. And the longer that it was closed down, the more likely someone was going to come up with an alternative. And I know a lot of retailers are worried about people being pushed to digital, but if there's no comics coming out at all, where are they going to go?
I'm trying to remember who it was. It was the guys from Big Bang Comics, I believe, that tried to come up with something in terms of organizing the retailers together to, I think it was a case of putting out a number of codes, releasing the comics digitally, which then they would also get a code which you would then buy. You'd buy the code, you'd get the comic digitally, but then you would also get the physical copy when stores opened up.
To clarify, it wasn't Big Bang. It was
sorry.
It was Comics Hub. It's a Stu Colson, I think, in New Zealand. It was his company, but I'd been talking to John about it as well because John was trying to help behind the scenes. That was. I
thought it was those two. I thought it was those two that were coming together to try and organize.
No, it was Stu's. It's Stu's company, but John's a big proponent of Comics Hub because I know there you go. I know his shop in particular have done quite well from it. Like I use it on my pull list of the Big Bang, for example. But a lot of retailers didn't like that solution, and maybe it wasn't a solution, maybe it just wouldn't work. But the level of disdain towards something, which for me was, okay, so you pay for something now and you get it later. That's everything now. How many you pre-order films, you buy books before you get them. If this was a way to get money flowing, so people can get paid, so retail, the retailers get paid, Diamond get paid, the publishers get paid, the freelancers get paid. Like, if keeping money moving for me seemed to be the priority. And again, if it was maybe it was a terrible idea, but I personally was getting pissed off with how trying to come up with something that could help was just the worst possible thing you could suggest.
Yeah, I mean the reason why.
Sorry.
Go on.
Oh, sorry.
Well, very quickly. Then I'll just say, I mean, the thing that pissed me off was the fact that idea got suggested, and within 48 hours it got shut down.
Well, the retailers
that's what pissed me off.
Because it was the retailer reaction that did that. We got such a. I was looking at some of the boards, horrible. Like, again, even if it was a bad idea, fine, but like just the idea,
it was totally entrenched. It was
awful.
awful.
So they just, it lost all support. And I think, no, again, I'm not saying it would have worked, but I think it
was an idea.
Would have been worth the conversation to try figure something out. Who knows? Maybe DC wouldn't be doing what they're doing right now if that was an option. They probably would be, though. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah, go on, Alex.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, I always find it sort of helpful in those situations. I mean, it sounds sort of vaguely stalkerish, but it's all on a, you know, it's all on sort of social media and everything. But round about that time, I mean, my sort of abiding memory of that period, of that sort of you know, in the immediate aftermath of that sort of 48 hours. I mean, as I said, you know, I mean, it's at the end of the day, I just want to keep working. I don't sort of understand the sort of behind the scenes sort of logistics, but it was interesting listening to letterers. I always think it's if you want to get the pulse of the industry, I think at any point. I mean, Dec, I mean, if you disagree, jump in. But I always find it's very illuminating listening to letterers, because they need more work and more regular work than the rest of us. And you know, they need, you know, I mean, I can't put, you know, I can't put a number on it, but you know, they'll need sort of 2 or 3 titles a month to keep their heads above water. And around about that time, you know, a lot of them were kind of saying, well, look, we just need work. We just need work. And I could sort of, you could just see, I mean, I know solutions have been found sort of in the interim, but I think if that had been allowed to kind of continue, I could just imagine, you know, it was sort of getting restive at the bottom, you know, there was sort of mutiny in the air, and I could just sort of see that sort of rising up, you know, until eventually it would sort of start hitting, you know, various other sort of strata. So I'm you know, I'm glad a solution was found, but yeah, I mean, that was a fraught couple of weeks, man. That was really unpleasant.
Yeah,
you know, for everyone, you know, for retailers as well, you know.
Yeah, I don't listen to letterers. Well, I mean, you know, I think it hurt. Like, I think artists had kind of a better time out of it because they were able to switch into commissions.
Yeah,
you know, like, I feel bad at the moment. I feel bad for writers because, no problem. Because I think because of the money problems with different companies right now, you know, writers need to make money. Like, I'm doing a creator-owned book, and I'm going to be paying the artist to draw it, so that's fine, and I can afford that because of, you know, I make money doing drawing comics, so that's great. But if I didn't have that resource, I'd be in a bind because nobody can do. So people need some money to get by right now. So if you're a writer, you can finance it. You need a company to, especially for creator-owned, you're going to need them to pay you, and if they pay you, then I'm worried everyone's going to jump in and take a lot of creator-owned deals that aren't very good right now. Because of companies that are paying, and I can't blame them for doing it because they need to make, you know, money. There's no side gigs for writers, you know. Colorists, you know, that they, you know, of course they need the work, but like, colorists generally will do work for hire and work that's creator owned and have it balanced. So I think maybe they wouldn't have been hit as hard, whereas letterers are probably all in, more so on like doing seven work for hire books, so maybe that was tougher for them. Artists had commissions, but I think writers were kind of boned. And I think it's gonna be a weird 6 months for writers anyway.
I mean, I was thinking of supplementing my income by being a living statue in the town square. You know, going back, I have to go back to mime.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I have actually seen you at resting by your side of a bar with a pint, totally still. So yeah, I can see that.
I was sleeping.
I mean, I think it's starting to become a running joke on this show when I talk about the creativity of anybody in the industry over the last 2 months, in that I personally feel that we're going to see a lot of COVID babies. You're going to see a lot of creativity that's come from the period of time where people have had this moment of pause and this moment of focus. I mean, in terms of what you've been up to, I mean, I know that Declan, you've been pushing bog babies,
bog bodies. It's okay.
Bog bodies. I keep saying babies. I have no idea why.
When I type bog bodies, it comes up as big bodies, big biddies. I always have to read it again just in case, because the eyes and nose are too close.
Those are magazines you find in forests, mate.
And then you got to put them back for the next guy.
Of course, it's the evolution of life.
Well,
that's the way it happens.
I was going full forward with the promo on Bog Bodies,
Yeah.
but then when the shutdown happened, it was like the week before it was supposed to come out, something like
Yeah.
that. So that was scrapped, and I had no idea, no answers from anybody about when it was actually coming out. And then I did get a date, and then I changed all my promo. I started going all again, and then I was told the week later it was going to be a week late. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake! And I had to go back and change everything. Like it was nuts. But I mean, weirdly, I think it's done better. Apparently, the orders went up over the shutdown period. I think maybe because I had more time to talk about something that was about to come out. So weird, and I think it was one of the first books to come out because it had already been printed. It had been printed and the shutdown happened, so the book was already done, you know. Excuse me, sorry, but it's hard to say how it'll affect it. But I've I don't know, I've been getting lots of like great feedback for the last couple of weeks, so I'm chuffed.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got it up on the screen at the moment, and I mean, I know when I emailed you about this coming on and saying that as a first issue or as a first volume, I think it's just an incredible story to go on. And you instantly email back saying it's a graphic novel, it's one and done. But the characters and the world that you've created in this, there's more. It feels like there's more to it. There's loads of characters where you can just keep going and just find out more about them. And I think that's where I was coming from, because it's just
that's a great compliment to get. Thanks, man. I should say that the pages you're saying are illustrated by Gavin Fullerton and colored by Rebecca Nolte, and the letters are by Clayton Coles. But yeah, I mean, I did a book previous to this called Savage Town, which kind of the idea for that was that it would be quite bigger and it could go on longer, and it did well, but not well enough to spawn sequels. With this, it was just more of a singular idea that I wanted to put out there, and I also do like done-in-one stories. Like there was a while ago where I was going to comic book shops and I was like, oh, this looks good, and I see there's like a lot of the Vertigo books, you know, there's 7 volumes. I'm like, ugh. God, I just want to read a story, you know. I don't want to sign up for you know, summer camp or anything. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I have nothing to say unless you have a question.
I mean, is there any kind of ideas percolating in the back of your head for maybe a second volume or carrying on a couple of the characters?
No.
Okay.
It's definitely just the story that it is. That was always the plan. I am talking to an artist about doing something in the same vein. Like Savage Town is pretty much set in the same world as this book. So if you like this, I'd recommend going back and reading Savage Town. It's a crime book set in Limerick City. Like probably about 10 years before Bog Bodies. But I quite like playing in that kind of sandbox of Irish crime and getting to write those types of characters. I think I decided I'd like to do, if possible, is do a criminal and just like do a story, you know, a criminal story, and then they're all kind of connected somehow, but they're all totally different stories. Yeah. So I have an idea that I'm talking to an artist about at the moment, but for being honest, it just depends on how Bog Bodies does. Savage Town was a big risk. It paid off just about. If Bog Bodies does well, then it means I think this is something I can afford to keep doing those type of books. But it's a lot of money and time on my end, and at this stage, you just need to know if I can afford to keep doing those type of books. You know.
Fair enough. I mean, we've got comments.
Can I jump in at this point, just really quickly? Like, Deck showed me some of the process stuff for this. Was it about a year ago?
I'd say so. Yeah.
I was going to say how long the lead up was on this.
But
yeah, sorry, go on, Alex.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, look. I mean, you know, Deck doesn't need any kind of moral or moral support or otherwise from the likes of me. But when I said to him at the time, you know, by the way, I don't mean this in a sort of derivative sense, but I got that same sort of David Lapham tingle.
I'll take that, man. Thanks.
No. Like it's just I love crime stuff when it's otherworldly. When there's almost a sort of just a weird, just sort of slight dusting of like magical realism, where it just feels like it's just sort of several degrees off normal.
Yeah.
And this one just delivers in spades, man. Like it's got like there's a toe of this thing that isn't quite sort of in our reality, and like I absolutely love that. I just think it's a fantastic piece of work.
Whereas
Thanks,
I went Greg Rucka and Stumptown. I went in
Right.
that direction.
That's I mean, I love all that stuff, which is like, you know, you want to make the books that you love to read. You know,
Sure.
you want to be the type of person that does the stuff that you really love. And you know, Criminals, Stray Bullets, like what I think, I don't know if you get this, Alex, but if people compare the thing that you did to something that you like, you're like, okay, good. It's not just saying it's as good as that, but like, it's in that vein, because that's what I was hoping. You know, because you know yourself, you can write something, but by the time it's drawn and lettered and read, you have no idea how it's going to be interpreted, because things can change. And I'm just really glad that it's, you know, I made the thing that I wanted to make, with like, and like a big part of that is choosing the people that you decide to do it with, you know. And Gavin nailed it, and Rebecca nailed it. I'm just really glad it is what it is. The only problem is that those, you know, it drives me crazy that crime is huge in other medium, like documentaries, novels, fiction, you know, TV series, film. Crime is huge, but in comics it really seems to struggle. Like, everybody loves Stray Bullets, but it's not the top selling book. I think Criminal is the one crime book that seems to kind of, you know, be lauded and do well. And you know, it's the smart move isn't to do a crime book, I would say, but it's the book I wanted to do. So I think that's the problem. Is I just wish people supported those books. Like, they're lauded all the time. Everyone seems to really, if they read them, love them. But like most of the great superhero writers of the last 10, 15 years were all crime writers. Bendis, Rucka, who else? Brubaker, you know. I wish people would like go and read the other books, not just the superhero stuff. But what are you going to do?
I don't know what it is.
I mean, there's a broader. Sorry.
Well, I don't know what it is over the course of lockdown. I've been going off my superhero stuff. I've not been getting into the fantastical. So on Netflix, I mean, you were talking earlier about what you've been watching, Deck, that you've been trying to keep it very buoyant and very positive. I've been watching the Tiger King, which if you really, I mean, enough of the memes, it's really grim and nasty and gritty in places. Don't fuck with cats. And I've watched the Jeffrey Epstein thing this week, and I've been, like I say, rereading Stumptown. I've been reading Bog Bodies. I've been getting into kind of the stuff under the nails. Kind of. I don't know if that's. I don't know what that says about me throughout the course of lockdown. But
I think in a way it's going back to source, right? I mean, that was all I was going to say. Really, I'm just sort of. I think, you know. I mean, you know, you mentioned Rucker, Bendis, Brubaker. I mean, what I was talking about that with the guy. You know, the whole, you know, going right back to kind of Marvel Knights, I guess. Sometimes it's sort of difficult to sort of, you know, to sort of obscure the trace, but really. A lot of sort of crime tropes and crime beats got imported into the sort of superhero genre sort of in the late 90s, early 2000s, and rejuvenated the whole thing. You know, do you remember superhero dialogue sort of before Bendis? You know, you realize just what an incredible impact he had. You know, this is a guy who basically said, well, okay, I'm gonna take that kind of, you know, you can't call what David Mamet does realism, because real people don't talk like that. Real people aren't that smart, but it's naturalistic. It's a version of realism, right? And he, well, I'll just apply that to superheroes. And like all of a sudden, you know, you've got sort of Spider-Woman talking about, you know, picking up chewing gum, you know, from under a desk and stuff, which just wouldn't happen before, you know. And we're still sort of in the aftermath of that. But that's all. That's very much kind of, you know, taking that sort of but taking that sort of hard boiled sort of that sort of hard boiled crime dialogue and just sort of folding it into superheroes to make it that much more naturalistic.
Moon Knight. What Warren did with Moon Knight. In the way that is the dialogue and the way that those stories flowed. Yeah, I see those kind of crime noir stories being folded. That's how I read the dialogue of those.
Yeah, I think there's clearly a huge crossover. I don't know. I wish those books had more of an. I wish Stray Bullets was the biggest selling comic there was. Like, how many other books have gone on as long as that?
Sure.
Was consistently amazing. But the problem is quality and success don't necessarily go hand in hand.
Fair enough. I mean, you got a couple of comments coming in. Sean Thomas, I'm loving the Bog Bodies color palette. Very nice indeed.
Oh, thanks, man.
Aaron Neighbours.
That was Rebecca Dalty. I don't want to take compliment first.
Digging the layouts. That's Aaron Neighbours. Sean Thomas. Yeah, I got a Stray Bullets vibe too from the pages that we showed. And Sean Thomas is saying "Kill or Be Killed" was a favourite title from the last 2 years.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. For yourself, Alex, then, I mean, I fully expected to see some live streams from the White Noise Gang, frankly, over the course of this. I expected you guys to come together because, I mean, we've been talking about the influx of content, and even before lockdown, it was a case of there was all the streaming services. The moment lockdown happened, even YouTube, it was just like the amount of podcasts and live streams. I've contributed to it as well. I've thrown my crap into the stream as well. But just all of this content coming out. Thank you. But I mean, I really did expect something from White Noise as well, because I thought you guys coming together as a live stream, so like extolling your virtues and spreading the good word. I expected something from you guys out there online.
Yeah, I mean,
I would have watched it.
I would have watched it.
Now
we tell you.
No, like initially, right? I put the feelers out for a podcast, and people were quite enthusiastic, and then I sort of demurred because I started seeing a lot of things cropping up on my socials, where people kind of go, "Please don't do a podcast during this. Please don't do another podcast." So I thought better of it, but I had a chat with guys about it the other day, and because they're all to a man contrarians, we thought we'd do it, but it just wouldn't be about comics. Yeah, we just get together and just be proper pricks and just talk about, it'd be like a reading club, but we do it about Paul Auster or something. But yeah, just no, but I don't know. It's a funny one, because and also, like, I mean, I wouldn't do a filmed one because, like, I mean, I can't compete with Ram's hair.
Yeah, you need a special hair cam.
Yeah. Exactly.
Excuse me, I'll just stroke this bum fluff and kind of put the cap back on.
Well, I mean, I think if I like to be straight up about it, I think it's not a problem at all. Like, you guys are all well able to talk, but at the same time, I think you straddle a fine line between being a group and not a brand. Like, I feel like you get a White Noise book because the caliber of the guys who are doing the book, but it's not like you all do the exact same thing. And I don't know. I think you guys have really benefited from galvanizing together, but it's not like you guys need everything. Doesn't need to be White Noise. A Ram book can be something different to an Alex book or what have you. And also, like, I've had conversations with you guys, and I don't know how much of that you'd want to be online.
Well, I mean, we did have early. Do you want me to talk about this? I mean, I'm having a pivot.
Yeah, go for it.
We did have early discussions, about that, and I mean, I was sort of all in favor of, because it's just me. I was like, right, yeah, let's make it a company and let's all get married. Pretty much straight off the bat, just how I am. I'm, I fall in love very quickly. But Ram and Ryan in particular were a lot more sort of leery of sort of jumping in with both feet, because they rightly said, if we're obviously not the Beatles, right? But there's the danger of, yeah, no, but do you know what I mean? Like, but there's a danger that if you become too sort of tightly intertwined, and if you tour together, as it were, you'll end up hating each other. So if we made it a thing, then you're up in each other's lives in all sorts of interesting and potentially problematic ways. So we sort of decided that it would be a sort of arm's length thing instead. So it's more, we're going to have things like,
Do you mean if Ryan started like having an affair with one of your wives? Because like I can see that being a problem. He's pretty handsome. Who's going to say no to that? Causing all kinds of ricochets.
I mean,
I've got too far, haven't I?
And now he's got a Mr. Brightside all playing in his head right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I think it's helped you guys an awful lot because you're all starting out from a similar place.
I think my I mean, to be fair, like, I think my mum fancies Ryan more than my wife.
Well, there you go.
And there's another mental image you didn't need.
There's your in, Ryan.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, there's famous stories about people who got into, well, for lack of a better term, got into bed with each other, and then there was problems. But I think you guys did a great job of having not creating a brand, but having an identity in which quality was associated with. And all the books that you've all done have kind of hit that mark. Like, I know if any of you four guys do a book, it's going to be of a level of quality, and also you don't have the same, no one of you has the same amount of productivity, so you all kind of benefit from it. So I definitely think, I see you guys as a unit, but as clear as very different people at the same time.
I've been asked to sort of define it before, and really, like, it's nothing more than a layer of editorial, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just it's so what is it? Is it a company? And we had sort of
I seem to remember asking these questions on a panel.
Yeah. No, so there's a Hollywood guy who was just kind of saying, are you gonna sort of be an LLC or something? But really, it's just we show each other our shit, and so before it gets out into the world,
sorry to interrupt, Alex. The thing with it is that people are asking the question, like, so it's already done its job by making you guys, like, so when you all started out, say, producing more work about 3 years ago, that was, I'll say this, it's definitely, like, all you guys has helped you all stand out more than any other writer I know that was coming up at the same time, because they're all just in their own, just trying to do their own thing. But just by having a brand as such made it a conversation, and the fact that, like, this LA guy is asking if it's like you're creating conversation about what you're doing without having even done anything. It's pretty smart.
I mean, I was really curious because, I mean, that panel that you did with me about white noise at it was London Film Comic Con, I believe. No, it was MCM. Sorry, in London, and you'd also just come from a Diamond event where you'd come out to present white noise to the industry. I mean, what were the kind of were those the kind of questions that you were being asked by people once you'd gotten off the podium? It was, okay, so what are your plans with this? What are you wanting to create a company? Were you finding that you were having to explain yourself twice?
Not really. I mean, but there's stuff that's amusing. So we'll hear stuff about ourselves secondhand, good and bad, by the way. I mean, it's as ever. I mean, there are some haters, but the one that really tickled us, the one that really tickled us was, and I I mean, next time you get sort of Ram or Dan on, get them sort of corroborate this. But I mean, I got it sort of third hand, but like the guys were kind of chuckling because apparently they'd heard a rumor when we were at Comics Pro that someone had kind of come up to them and said, "Have you heard about this publisher, White Noise? What's that about?" Yeah, we thought that was pretty funny. But it's odd, because the cooler heads in the group, and I am not one of them. But they all said, no, let's, we'll sort of keep it as nebulous and sort of amorphous as we can. And that way we're not sort of coming out, jazz hands, because nothing, to be honest. I mean, I always sort of defer to the other guy. I flatter myself that I make good work, but I defer to the other guys in terms of decisions regarding the group because I'm just not very good at that sort of stuff. Like I said, I fall in love very quickly, and I'll give someone my house keys if they ask me nicely. So, they're the ones who are usually sort of cautioning restraint, and it tends to work out pretty well because I mean, not to be cynical, but in a weird way, it sort of generates an air of mystery, I guess. In the sense that people never really know what they're talking about when they talk about it.
You've got this thing that kind of it can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah.
Like I remember somebody asking me if do creators need like a hook or a gimmick in order to kind of make a name for themselves, and the question was asked for me in regards of like art cred, just something I've been talking a lot about. Don't need to get into it, but I've been talking about it a lot. It
was something I was going to bring up, so go for it.
Okay. But when they were asking the question, it's like, oh, do you think that's a gimmick? And they're like, no, I don't think it's a gimmick, but it's definitely something else that people know like you for. And I remember feeling very uncomfortable about that because it wasn't supposed to be that. And I see a lot of younger creators jumping on a lot of bandwagons or hashtagging shit or putting the brand in front of the creative. And I think that's something, like, from talking to all the White Noise guys, that I know that's not something you guys want to do. You want the creative to be the driving force of everything.
Wait, do you know what? It's funny. Sorry to kind of. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say that. Just because I think it is sort of pertinent, right? I mean, when I started all of this, right? I had a chat with. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but it's nothing. It's nothing incriminating. But Simon Spurrier. He was one of the first people to sort of give me the time of day after I'd got my deal, and we were sort of down the pub, and he was sort of setting out the sort of the lie of the land, as it were, and he just said, look, you're going to have to make a decision quite quickly about whether you stand in front of the work or behind the work, and they're both equally valid, right? And I sort of went away and sort of had to think about it. I said, well, what does he mean? And there are very credible people who put themselves in front of the work, right? Grant Morrison puts himself in front of the work, right? To get to his work, he's part of his body of work,
Yeah, I think maybe Chip is a good example at the moment. Like there's creators who I remember talking about sorry, don't we talk over you, Alex?
No, not at all. I talk over you. It's just...
it was I remember talking to someone I knew before, going, I don't want to have a persona, and I think I remember what was I was saying, but like I remember feeling like Warren kind of had a persona, and I mean, like 10 years I didn't even know Warren at the time, but there are definitely creators who have a persona, and as an artist, it sucks and it's great because you can kind of build yourself off the back of that persona. Like I kind of have a Warren. But then we hit an age where everybody is a persona because of social media. So you can just be behind the work, but those bigger personas, I think, drown out the artists that they're working with. So you could be an artist that works with Chip Zdarsky and nobody knows who the hell you are because everyone just loves Chip so much. There's downsides to working with somebody who's like that. But I feel that we all have I'm not aware of what my persona is, but I know how I would like to come across online. I don't know if it matches the godlike status that I'd imagine, but I think we all.
You mentioned Cy Spurrier there. I mean, I think he's got a very similar problem at the moment. In that, when people talk about Once and Future, it's a Si Spurrier book. And I mean, it was something I was going to be bringing up is the whole business
Kieran Gillen
of
book, though,
Kieran.
Leonard.
Kieran Gillen book. Sorry, other way around. Sorry, yeah, Kieran Gillen book. Well, like, even with Si Spurrier with the Dreaming, I mean, people seem to think of it just as like it's Si Spurrier's book, and it's absolutely not. But likewise,
it's very much Bill Cazaveli's book.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Bilkis doesn't stand in like I actually haven't talked to Si in a while, but I wonder what he would think. I think Si stands in front of his work a lot more than he used to. I don't know if that's conscious on his part, but I don't think he did as much earlier in his career. But I think it certainly helped him later in his career. Not it's kind of maybe bad for us to talk about somebody else. We all know him and screw him, but you know, but being attached to the game and and all the Coda, all the great stuff he's been doing. Like I feel that most creators now need to stand in front of the work because there's too many who are, and if you stand behind it all the time, then no one's gonna know that you're around.
It's a funny one because I mean I remember I had a chat with someone in Portland about this. And it's interesting, you know. I mean, I think it's different if you're established, but there is certainly an element of it. And I mean, I'm certainly, you know, I'm, as you can tell, you know, I'm not particularly kind of comfortable with it. But you know, I went out for dinner with someone and saying, "Oh no, you know, you don't need a social media presence at all." Well, really? Yeah, you don't need a social media presence at all. You know, look at Ennis, look at BKV.
Yeah, it's very.
You know, they stand behind the work, but exactly, and
they can afford to.
They got in under the wire, and I think but you know, I think if you're still building something, you kind of have to, and to sort of prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet, and I mean, I've certainly ballsed it up in the past.
And we all have, man.
But it is an interesting one, isn't it? That you well, I find anyway that I think you're right, Dave. That you have to sell yourself as well as the work now, which is it's not what any of us I think would choose to do in an ideal world, but we don't live in an ideal world.
I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but I just feel that like say Bilkis is an amazing talent, but I'm sure, as great as she's doing, I'm sure she could be doing much better if she carnival barkered a little, you know, like say I would do. But she is so talented, she'll be fine. The rest of us who aren't as talented need to compensate somehow, you know. And yeah, I'm not saying it's something that we should do because it's the right thing to do. Just in where we are, it's a very busy market with a lot of incredibly talented people churning out a lot of great work. Like there's a lot of great work out there, and if you're not letting people know, look, I'll say I actually have to go because my lift is downstairs.
No, absolutely.
I'll say this: I did a poll on Twitter recently because I was feeling like a bit of a twat for constantly shilling bog bodies all the time. You know, I'm just doing it all the time. I did a bit with Savage Town, and I think I could have done better. So with bog bodies, I just said, look, I'm just going to shamelessly plug this fucking thing because I want people to read it. It's not for my ego, you know. But I did a poll on Twitter saying like, hey, I've got this book coming out. What is your reaction when you see a bog bodies tweet? I think the options were, oh great, I can't wait for the book. Oh, not this again, eye roll. And I think another one was like, what the hell is bog bodies, you know? And the option were clearly nobody cared. Everyone was like, oh yeah, cool. But I'm sure Alex will be with me on this, and that I was always worried that everyone's just like, oh, for God's sake, not again. But social media and things are so busy that I can post something about doing this podcast, for example, and 3 people would see it depending on the time of day and how many times it was tweeted, you know. There's just the signal boost. You just need to to cut through any of the noise. You just kind of got to keep doing it, and it just kind of need to leave a level of dignity at the door.
Well, I mean, I think that for myself, I mean, when I'm looking through my Twitter feed, when I'm scrolling down and through the timeline, I get to about 45-minute history, maybe an hour, and then I start from the top again. And if I'm rolling through anything, so if it's in an hour window, if I don't see it. There was something this morning where someone was telling me about, or someone mentioned about a podcast that they listened to and was really good. Oh, I said, I'm going to have to check that podcast out. I've never even heard of it. At which point the person who creates that podcast, who I've been following on Twitter for about 3 years, turned around and said, well, you've been a great follower. Thank you very much indeed. I went, oh,
that's bollocks. No, but that's not fair. You know, like I tweeted a Savage Town trailer just before Bog Buddies came out, because I had it made. It took a long time to get it together, and then it was together. And the reaction was, "Oh, I can't wait for the book to come out." It's been out for 2 years, you know.
Yeah.
But you can't be annoyed with somebody who finds out about something for the first time, because, like, I remember, and nothing against McKelvey, but I remember he was joking about how he got nominated for like best newcomer, and he'd been doing the work for years. And I mean, I laughed too, because it's ridiculous. He's been in comics for ages, but if there's more people finding out about you for the first time, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Sean Thomas out about you.
Yeah. Sean Thomas is commenting, they're selling yourself because you believe in your art and stories, and then they're selling yourself like Rob Liefeld. I think 99% of creators fall into the former group. Yeah. It's a
that's valid. It's a whole.
He believes in his work.
Yeah.
I do need to go though.
No, I know that you had to disappear. Declan, it's been a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Can you leave the cam on, and we'll just have the room?
No, because I'm wearing sweatpants.
Have you got a cutout that you can just leave in space?
No, I'm wearing sweatpants, and I need to put on actual trousers because I'm going to leave the house, which isn't much of a problem these days. So I don't think you need to see that. So I'm gonna actually go.
Take it off. Declan, it's been a pleasure, sir. Take care. Look after yourself. All the best.
You too. Thanks for having me, and I'll catch up with you soon, Alex.
Nice one.
That was you. That was you, Alex.
Enjoy outside.
And away he goes. So there you go. I mean, we'll try and get Declan back on. I've got a whole shopping list of stuff that I was going to get into, but we've been having a great chat, and it's been good to kind of have one of these where it is a case of. I mean, I wanted to get into conventions. I mean, I know I started this podcast, this live stream, to talk about Comic-Con news, and when the lockdown happened and the conventions disappeared. The idea was it was for the convention family to come together on a Wednesday and a Sunday to kind of like celebrate these events that we went to and the talent that we saw. And the lack of conversation about conventions we've had on this podcast has been quite impressive, considering that, people like yourself, I'm certain that you had a whole bunch of conventions that perhaps you were going to be attending this year that are now absolutely off the cards. I mean, what shows were you lined up for 2020?
Emerald City. I was gonna apply for New York because I just do New York every year.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Thought Bubble, which is still very much in play as I understand it.
Yeah.
I was making sort of tentative. This was sort of early March. I was making sort of tentative inquiries about sort of San Diego, just because.
You're a name now, sir.
No.
Yes.
I mean, no. I mean, in full disclosure. I mean, New York, I go to nominally to at least try and sort of talk to Marvel. But I figured, rightly or wrongly, San Diego is where I should go. I mean, if I want to sort of talk to DC, I mean, I know that there's a lot of sort of, they're not stuck in either coast. It just seemed like a sort of pragmatic move.
I'm really curious to know how many creatives are going to want to actively talk to DC now. Because I mean, part of the one of the conversation I was going to go into was the fact that it does feel like DC are going to contribute to the extinction of the floppy, the single trade issue, the single issue, with the decision that they've made with their new distribution model. They're definitely aiming for book retailers, for trade paperbacks. The way that it's going to get priced to get books into stores is just going to make it very difficult for retailers to put DC on the shelf. So it's just going to be, so I'm really curious to know what the relationship between creatives and DC is going to be like now. If that makes any sense.
I wish I could tell you.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
You know, I mean, I've done a little bit of work for Marvel, but I've never done anything for DC. I mean, I have friends who are working for them now. I have friends who are very happy working for them now. And
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm not at liberty to say too much.
Okay. Well, we'll move away from that.
No. But I will say this. I mean, I think a lot of smart people work for that company.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't take any of this to the bank, but you know, they're not going to leave money on the table.
No. I mean, I personally believe
maybe yes, don't make too many kind of premature.
No, well, that's the thing. I mean, we're doing. I'm doing a podcast with two guys, which is Mike Avelia from Sci-Fi Wire, who really knows his shit, and in terms of the industry and the ins and outs, and also Russ Burlingame, who also knows the industry very well. And we kind of had that conversation because it was the last weekend of last month when we did it. We're doing another one at the end of this month, and we agreed then that everything that had happened when we spoke on that last episode, the world changed in a week. The world changed in 2 weeks. Everything was just moving so fast. And the reason why I've agreed to have them back on after a month is because everything has changed again in a month. Everything's just happening so fast. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the decision was made by DC Friday last. How the cards are going to fall on that, we're going to see in 2 weeks, 2 months. Except down the line, I totally agree with what you're saying.
I mean, it's a funny thing because, you know, I mean, end of February, you know, as you said, you know, Dec and I were, you know, and I was there with Ram and Dan and Ryan, you know, Comics Pro in Portland. You know, we were in a convention center we were in a hotel with, you know, the majority of US retailers, you know, sort of peddling our wares, and you know, there was no sort of inkling at the time. You know, I mean, you know, COVID was sort of a twinkle in, you know, a twinkle in the milkman's eye.
In the BBC News eye, yeah.
Yeah, you know, we had no idea it was going to be like this, but it was interesting because, you know, speaking to the, you know, I'm still in contact with a lot of those guys, you know, and I think it's just a case of you know, nature abhors a vacuum. The medium will be fine. The medium will be fine. And if the direct market, I mean, I'm talking, by the way, I'm talking absolutely out of my ear here. This is not inside track or anything. This is just my suspicion. I think, you know, if there's a vacuum there, then maybe the direct market will become a substrate for something else. I mean, I think the big worry I have is, you know, if, as seems to be the case, we are sort of plunging headlong into a global depression, or at least a Western depression, what sort of discretionary spending power are people going to have after this? Which suggests to me that, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying people were doing otherwise beforehand, but, you know, if people don't have as much money, if they don't have as much disposable income, you know, I mean, it did before, by the way. I'm not saying it didn't, but, you know, whatever you're putting out there, nobody can kind of, I mean, like I said, I mean, I know I'm sort of backtracking constantly, I'm backpedaling furiously here, but none of us can sort of rest on our laurels,
No.
because people are going to be making, if they can afford to get sort of 2 or 3 comics a week, where they were getting 10, then, yours had better be good.
Yeah.
I
think we're actually going to be seeing people, instead of buying 10 comics a week, you're going to be seeing people buying 2 trades a month and maybe 3 or 4 issues. I think everything's going to start moving towards the trades because of the way that people are going to be a lot more selective about what they're reading, which is why I mean, we'll kind of, we'll wrap this topic up very quickly, because it's something that we could go.
No, it's fine. It's fine with me. Because I don't have an inside track. That's all.
No, it's like I say, the way that the decision that DC has made, and the way that I think the landscape is going to change. I think we're going to see a lot more people being very selective about the books they buy, and they're going to want a complete story, which would have been 6 issues in a trade paperback. So you're going to see a lot of, like you say, with Deck, with Bog Bodies, one and dones, very kind of long form stories in single volumes. I think the dynamic of what people are going to be buying is going to be slightly different. In the creative side, and this is, I think we'll do this and then we'll let you get off and enjoy the rest of your evening. In terms of the lockdown, it's something which, I mean, it's obvious from conversation with yourself, it's obvious with conversation with anybody and everybody, that this has had a real psychological impact, either for the better or as a hindrance, because some people have taken the lockdown and taken the pressure and grown from it and developed and really kind of become very creative. I mean, the example that I always go to is Rachel Smith with her Quarantine Comics. What she has done springboarded off this terrible situation we're all in is inspiring. For yourself, I mean, obviously it's going to make a marked impression on your writing. I'm assuming that's the case. Is it something that you feel is going to happen naturally, or is it something you're going to go, I've got to talk about this, I've got to get this out in my writing?
I think it's kind of unavoidable, but yeah. I think it's going to do so. The best examples, and don't quote me on this, but this is my feeling. I think the best examples will address it obliquely, and I think you'll see them in a couple. I think you'll see them in a couple of years, because again, there's the sort of.
It's also still ongoing.
What Rachel's doing, right? What Rachel's doing is the punk rock approach, right? Which is input, and you don't process it. And by the way, I'm not using that as a term of opprobrium at all. It's a visceral reaction to something has tremendous value, because it's the diary of Samuel Pepys. It's that's how we know what it was like in the plague year, right? So that has tremendous value, but I think you'll start to see you'll get those sort of reactions, which are very immediate, visceral, and in some cases hard to read. And I think in a few years you will start to see more sort of allegorical or symbolic renderings of what's happened. I mean, I was joking with my agent the other day. I said, you just know that, like I said, how many pitches are floating around in Hollywood at the moment of, a lovelorn guy who lives in an apartment block that's, facing another apartment block, and, he can only communicate with the girl in the flat opposite with the music of Rod Stewart. And he just said to me up front, he said, you would not believe you know, the number of like, you know, lockdown rom-coms that have already been pitched, and it's like, I mean,
Jesus.
fine, but we, you know, I think, you know, what Ram said, you know, stuck with me. You know, we don't know what this means yet. We don't know what this means. You know, we're all living through something that has never happened before. I mean, we've
Yeah.
had pandemics before, but we've never had a lockdown
On a
with
global
this sort of
scale.
on a global scale, with it, but also with this kind of weird technological capability where we're not just kind of exchanging letters. So we don't really know what this is going to do to us, sort of psychologically. I mean, all I can say is, I mean, I'm allowing it to rewrite things that are mid-flight, right? So
That's
like that's what I was
going to ask as well.
So I've got a Vault book at the moment I'm doing called Giga, and I'm still writing it. It has certainly buckled the track on that. I mean, in a positive way, I would say. And also, I mean, I'm doing. I'll tell you what.
Go for it.
I won't reveal the title.
Oh.
Ashcan here
Hey.
of a book that I've done for TKO. That's just
excellent.
Yeah, that's just been.
I knew that. What am I on about? I knew that you were doing something for TKO.
Yeah, which is going to be part of their sort of wave. And I mean, in a funny way, I mean, it was already sort of mid-flight. Sorry, you know, some of the. It didn't buckle the rail really, because I mean, I'm not saying I'm sort of, you know, uncannily prescient or anything, but you know, I did have a feeling that something sort of pretty nasty was coming down the pike. I mean, not to this extent, but
yeah.
But it certainly allowed me to sort of dig a little bit deeper, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm writing a movie screenplay at the moment.
Well, I mean, this was going to be the question to kind of let you get off and do what you're doing.
Oh, sorry.
If you can let us know what you're kind of up to and what you're what's next.
Oh no,
down the line
I wasn't. By the way, that wasn't a here's my wares. I mean, I was just, you know.
No, it was kind of for myself, because we usually try and keep this to an hour.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
I'll wrap it up.
Listen, you're an interesting guy. I want to talk to you, and we'll keep going. And
have you had your dinner yet, then?
Hey,
have you had your dinner?
No.
Right. Okay. 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 So I have. Yeah, I've got a book coming out as part of Wave 3 of TKO's release. I think that'll be coming out late July.
Yeah.
And that's it's my first sort of pure horror book, which I'm very excited about, because I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, you know, people who know my work tend to associate with me with sort of high concept, sort of
sci-fi futurism.
Yeah, hard SF. But I've always thought of myself as a horror writer. It's just none of my horror pictures ever got picked up. It was always the sort of the SF one that got picked up. So this is the first horror book I've done, and this is the one where I'm sort of most comfortable.
What's the name of that again?
I can't say yet.
Right, okay.
But it will be TKO. You know, they do an annual release where they bring out, you know, 4 series at once in one bundle. Very excited to work with them. And the artist on that is Neil Vendrell, who did Shirtless Bear Fighter at Image.
Yes.
He's pushing himself into some very interesting areas. And I'll tell you as well, the colorist is Julia Brusco, who I mean a very long, very storied career. But you know, I think the most recent was The Goddamned. But just working with Julia is just, yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And got Ryan Ferrier is lettering it as well, which is great, because it's another. I mean, really, when you've got Ryan lettering it, it's another layer of editorial, because Ryan's a wonderful writer in his own right. So you know, he'll just sort of pull me up and just go, well, you know, that's a bit. Maybe that's a bit. You might want to tweak that, mate. The other thing, I've got a book coming out through Vault. I think it drops in October, called Giga. And I'm doing that with an artist called John Lee, and I'm very lucky to have as my colorist, our colorist, Rashan Kachiriano, who is just an extraordinary talent, and lettered by Aditya Bidikar, great Aditya Bidikar.
Yep.
And that is, I can tell you a bit more about that. That's because there's some promo stuff out there. That it's a murder mystery set in a city composed entirely of giant robots. So the idea is that these giant sort of mechs have had this big war for centuries, and then they just stop, and they lie dormant for decades until eventually human beings do what human beings do, and in the absence of building new cities, they just tunnel into these robots and just live in them.
Yeah.
And a religion sort of springs up around them, and you end up with this sort of clerical class of sort of engineer priests called the Order of the Red Relay, who have their own Bible called the Book of Assembly, which is sort of half Bible, half Haynes Manual.
Don't take this the wrong way. That to me sounds like an Alex Paknadel book. I mean, I know you're saying that you're describing this book, and I'm going, that sounds like an Alex Paknadel book.
No, look, I mean, I'm very, very comfortable in the genre. I like working in the genre. I have other pitches ready to go that are in the genre. And I certainly, I grew up with, I grew up in a hard SF household. My dad's a big SF guy. But I mean, for some reason, it's not that horror stretches me less, because I try to stretch myself from whatever I'm doing. But I think the concepts, I was fine with sort of the SF stuff, that it takes me longer to tease out story than it does if nothing else, because I think with horror,
it's visceral. It's
also
it cuts to the bone.
It cuts to the bone, but also you need to know the backstory, but it's not as dependent on. You're not necessarily trying to build a sort of functional. The world building is about what you withhold. It's not about what you reveal. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the reasons why, I'm sort of talking to AN Pro writer about, when I just seen Prometheus, and I said, it was beautiful. It was an absolutely beautiful film, but it just it didn't work for me, and I didn't know why. And I was speaking to this comics pro about it, and they said, it's because knowing where the xenomorph comes from renders it intrinsically less frightening. The more you know about the alien, it's just diminishing returns. The more you learn about it, the less frightening it is. In Alien, it's just this thing, and every time you think you know what it is, it changes. Oh, well, it's the egg, so the egg's the scary thing. Oh, no, it's the thing that comes out of the egg. That's the scary thing. Oh, no, it's this little thing that's come out of this guy's chest. That's the scary thing. Every time you think you know what it is, it changes. Whereas, with every successive, addition to the canon, more is revealed, and the scares, are diminished.
Yeah.
And I think that's the really interesting thing about horror is, the atmosphere is created. It doesn't mean that you can't be visceral. It doesn't mean that you can't be bloody as hell.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Cronenberg fan, but horror, I think, stems in the main from what you withhold. It's not what you what you reveal. Whereas when you're dealing with hard SF, it kind of all has to be out on the table.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of reminding me. I mean, you were talking there, and there was a whole bunch of examples rattling on in my head. Hannibal Lecter. The more books you have about him, the more you know about what's going on. It just gets diminished, and the whole.
If he's just a force of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. With Alien, it's not the alien that's it's scary. It's the what's in the shadows scary.
Yeah.
That's what's and. I was rewatching the history of video games by Charlie Brooker on YouTube, and talking about Doom. The imps aren't scary. The monsters aren't scary. The lighting is scary. The noises in the back of somewhere else is scary. That's where it's a different skill set to create that that kind of temperament, that kind of world. Absolutely. Sean Thomas has quickly dived in. Oh, go on.
Oh, sorry.
This is agree with Alex on the horror thing. Hitchcock's The Birds, for example. Yeah, I mean, if you found out why the birds were attacking, who gives a shit?
Well, and I think, but we're sort of in a climate, aren't we? Where I mean, I often wonder about this as well, because the I talk about this with the White Noise guys quite a bit, actually. The sort of obsession with origins is interesting, because there's a lot of it now. It's that mythologies kind of have to be kind of additive. I mean, I remember when, and by the way, like, I mean, for the record, I enjoyed the movie. This isn't a kind of criticism, but I remember when Solo was announced, right?
Yeah.
A good friend of mine just went, "Oh God, they're going to do the Kessel Run," and it really kind of, because it's that thing of you whatever the source material is, it seemed like every sort of throwaway line, every throwaway detail becomes sort of fodder for further sort of mythological kind of exploration. And it, like, as I said, like, I enjoyed the movie, but like, it didn't need to be the Kessel Run, because it's still a kind of shrinking universe. Ultimately, it's still, here's this one sort of mother text, but absolutely every line is kind of being passed and sort of explored for kind of further kind of exploration. Whereas I think what Kieran did, with Dr. Aphra, Kieran and I did with Dr. Aphra, that's not additive. I mean, or rather, that's purely additive in the sense that it's not strip mining the original material. It is truly additive.
Yeah,
it's taking that and going, well, here's a substrate, and I'm going to build a completely new structure on it, rather than just sort of, building something out of the old structure.
Yeah, I agree. For me, Dr. Aphra was the best thing that came out of the Marvel Star Wars run. Although I really liked Kieran's first Darth Vader arc was just astonishing. But there we go. Well, I was going to go into something there. With Solo, I like yourself. I really enjoyed the film. I enjoyed some of the characters that I wanted to spend more time with. There are several characters in there which I think were wasted. That you really wanted to know more about them, and they just kind of got thrown away a little bit. For me, that final shot just summed it all up. That did you really create an entire film just so that you had a pair of dangly dice that would then be an icon which Luke would give to Leia at the end of not Force Awakens, at Last Jedi? Is that really what you did? You created you released a film just so Luke would then pass Leia these dice things which had never showed up before? What the hell? That's really what you did, and I felt slightly conned there. But there we go.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because you look back, and I mean, there was a whole kind of Guardian article on shrinking universes a while ago, that is really interesting. They're saying that the reveal at the end of, sorry, we're getting into Star Wars long grass now, but like the reveal at the end of Empire, right, at the time was absolutely. I mean, I wasn't alive when that came out, so I have no idea what kind of impact it had.
Oh,
sorry, no, come on, but
that hurt.
But no, come on. I'm Methuselah, but so I have no idea what impact that had. But my understanding is that that huge. Kind of hadn't happened before. This, oh God, they're father and son. Shit.
It was up there. It was for me at that period. It was Spock dying and that reveal. Those two flipped my shit.
Well, I wonder. I mean, and this will be out of your sort of experience, but I wonder if it had the same sort of. Did it have the same sort of holy shit factor as like for the reveal at the end of Planet of the Apes? I wonder.
Yeah.
That kind of.
Yeah.
Whereas, but what this piece was saying, I mean, I forget who wrote it, but they're saying that that what was revolutionary became of blockbuster vernacular.
Yeah.
This idea that all of a sudden, everybody has to be related. And so you end up with this very contrived thing, if you think about it, which is that you have these very, very broad canvases that are the kind of staple of blockbuster entertainment. But then within that, you have this, they call it like the shrinking universe effect, which I think is a really sort of apposite kind of term, which is that, all of a sudden, against this kind of epic canvas, you're actually relying on this sort of cascade of coincidences, where actually is, oh, well, this guy was this guy's dad all along, and it's, well, then this person just happened to be on the planet at the same time. It's a galaxy, man. Like, what are the, I mean, you can, Star Wars has the ultimate get out, of course, which is Force. But the others don't,
Yeah.
and yet, you still have, and so I think if we can kind of get away from, I mean, when Sony rebooted Spider-Man under the Marvel umbrella, I had so much respect for them for not doing another origin. I mean, I don't know whether that was Sony or Feige, but just, look, we all know where Spider-Man comes from, and go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And it was interesting that that happened around the same time as Batman v Superman. I think Batman v Superman came first, and it started with the death of the Waynes again, and all I just went, we are actually gonna watch this shit again. We're actually gonna go through this trauma again of seeing a family being killed. And then with Spider-Man, you had jack shit. You had literally no origin story under this new umbrella because we knew it. And when people ask me about what the two approaches between Marvel and DC, that's it. That's the example I roll out, because there's either respect for your audience to know, or at least let them understand that it's not necessarily important. It's the journey. It's what happens from this step onwards. You don't necessarily always have to just keep reliving that story when we know it. But there we go.
I mean, for the record, look, by the way, I mean, I enjoyed Batman v Superman tremendously, but I do wonder to what extent. Like, again, we all kind of know where Batman comes from. It's pretty much, we imbibe it at the same time as we imbibe sort of formula milk. It's just one of those, when you're dealing with sort of iconic sort of pop culture figures like that. But I often wonder as well, because I mean, even sort of back in the 60s, right? I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but am I right in thinking that you didn't get Doctor Strange's origin for like quite a while?
Nope.
When he was introduced in the books, and it's just this dude that does magic.
Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four, as far as I'm aware, you pretty much launched into it, and they kind of discovered the origin about 3 or 4 issues in.
Well, there you go. I think that there's something to withholding. And I tell you where, I'm sorry, I've gone on to a big ramble, but most,
okay, I'm gonna shut you down in 5 minutes.
That's fine. Yeah. But what Marvel did with Wolverine, I think, they had 25 years of just giving you nothing, apart from that Barry Windsor Smith mini, which is just one of the best things Marvel have ever released.
Yep.
That Weapon X series in Marvel Comics Presents is just, I've got it up there now. Like, I mean, my God, it's beautiful. But they just gave you nothing, and the more nothing they gave you, the more compelling the character became. Because all you need to know is that he's just a Ronin. He's just a masterless samurai. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite X-Men characters is Legion, and you got nothing about that character for about 6, 7 issues. You just knew that there was this gathering storm in the background that was just ready to kind of cut loose. Yeah, I agree. Listen, we could just carry on going and carry on talking, and I'd love to. This has been an epic one. We've done 2 epic ones this particular run of shows. We had Donny Cates and Megan on, and we did a 2-hour thing there. It was great. Likewise with yourself and Declan, to just kind of really get into some I mean, we've had 2 totally different types of conversation, which has been great. A sense of creativity, all sorts of stuff. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you so much indeed.
May I hustle one thing?
No, go for it. Of course.
Okay, so very quickly, Marvel's event, Empire event, which I believe begins Empire.
Empire.
Which I believe it derives from Empyrean rather than.
I believe so. Yeah,
Imperial,
it's the Fantastic Four Avengers. Is it?
Yeah. Anyway, Al Ewing very kindly invited me to contribute a couple of one-shots to that. So in August, I have 2 30-page bumper Empire tie-ins, and I'd say that, you know, people are asking, well, you know, how essential are they? And I can't give too much away, but they're pretty essential. And they
have
gave me
the words Alex Paknadel on the cover, therefore they are essential.
But I'm very, very proud of them. And you know, I worked with Thomas Natchlick and Alex Linz, 2 phenomenal artists on those. And some spectacular editors, Darren Shan and Lauren Amara at Marvel, both of whom gave me all the kind of tools I needed to kind of craft some really, really good stories. So I've got 2. There's a series called Lords of Empire. I think it's 3 issues. The first is Chip Zdarsky's Emperor Hulkling.
Yeah.
And then my 2 are Celestial Messiah and the Swordsman, who's, you know, an old Avengers character. Yeah, they're. I'd appreciate it if people kind of gave them a look, because I think I don't say this lightly. I think it's actually some of the best work.
Wow.
So yeah.
This was what I was going to be. This is in the list of stuff that I was going to talk to you about, because I was going to talk about Empire. I was going to ask about how much leeway you'd been given, because I've heard before, when it comes to the big overarching stuff, and when it comes to the kind of the incidental issues, especially when it comes to Al, he gives everyone some real leeway to be very creative, and really kind of have their own sense of story. I mean,
I'll tell you.
I was, yeah.
I was pretty much given a title and a almost 3-word brief. Everything else was pretty much up to me. I mean, as long as, by the way, you know, as long as I sort of ran it past Al first. But I mean, I'm sure I sort of did his head in. But you know, I was ringing him up sort of every other week, just going, you know, do you think I should do this? And bless him. I mean, you know, he took it very well. I mean, I was just a little bit nervous, just because it's, you know, it's my first Marvel work.
Yeah.
But you know, he sort of believed in me, sort of sufficiently to kind of vouch for me with those guys. And when the time actually came to sort of working on the books themselves, I mean, without sort of getting into it, it's a funny thing. And this is, by the way, this isn't to sort of disparage any other publisher I've worked with. It's just a very different experience. But my God, that is, I mean, you know, I hope I get to work with them again. I hope I get to work with everybody. But that is a slick engine, my friend. Marvel. My God, that is an efficient.
By the way,
I'm
I'm thinking back to a conversation you and I had at Lakes International Comic Art Festival about maybe 4 years ago, where we're just walking around.
Is this incriminating? Did I say anything
incriminating? It is incriminating, because you turned around and said, you know what, I'm okay with telling my own stories. I don't necessarily feel I need to work for DC or Marvel. I don't feel I need to. At which point I went, dude, it's almost inevitable because of the quality of the work you're putting out. And here we are. And I feel vindicated, so deal with it. It's as simple as that.
I appreciate it. But genuinely, Len, like, I mean, sorry, there is absolutely, and I mean this as a compliment. Like, I mean, I've never known anything. There is absolutely zero fat on that operation, and I don't mean that, but not to the detriment of creativity either. You know, they give you, I mean, I don't know whether it's the team that I was working with, but they absolutely, here's a platform to kind of do your own thing, and then kind of from that point on, it's weird. It's just sort of silver surfer. But in the sense that,
have you just dropped to the next book you're doing?
No. Oh God, Donnie, you kill me. But no, but just in terms of, like I said, just the slickness of the operation. It's I mean, like I said, I haven't worked at DC. I'm sure it's the same there, but I was just absolutely kind of taken aback by just how kind of how they can manage to do that so efficiently without any sort of diminution of kind of quality of product. You know what I mean? It's whatever you think it is kind of working for them, it's not that. It's of course they're a business, right? But it's absolutely, it's a machine that's kind of designed to get you to do your best. Which it was just great. It was great.
Cool. Well,
and I think it shows in the work.
I'm looking forward to reading them. Like I said earlier, it's not something. The superhero genre for me isn't the books I'm reading at the moment. I'm reading off book. I'm reading a lot of Image. I'm reading a lot of creator owned. I'm kind of. It's not something that I'm now. It's not a focus of mine anymore. But it's something that I keep a close eye on, just in case. If anything, I think the event comic era is something that has kind of disillusioned me, because I think there has been a lot of wasted opportunities. But I'm hoping for Empire. I'll always root for efforts by good creators, and that's where I am. We've got Sean Thomas with, I think, one last comment, and this is harking back to the conversation we had about origin and about world building and having to fill in all the gaps. And he finishes with this: dude does magic. It saves a huge page count saver on the Doctor Strange origin issue. Absolutely. That's the way it works. So there we go. Listen, Alex, thank you so much indeed for coming on and talking to us. It's like I say, it's an extended episode, but it's always a pleasure. And we got into all sorts of stuff, and that's exactly what you want to do on this. Where can people find you online and follow what's coming down the line and find out more about Empire and the books you're doing?
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm just at Alex Paknadel, Paknadel. I should have done that on there.
I was just going to say, I'm going to put something up. Hang on, go on.
At Alex Paknadel on Twitter. I also have a Facebook presence. I think I'm pretty personable. Yeah,
a little bit of politics in there, but you know what? Nowadays, who cares? Because it's required. These checks and balances need to happen from all corners. But yeah, there's.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm saying, I'm nothing wildly kind of controversial. No. I haven't got a tinfoil hat on.
No, but you do keep your eye on the right targets. For me, you don't wander. You don't wander off into, like you say, into some real nonsense. You kind of keep your eye on the prize, and I've no problem with that. So there you go.
Yeah,
Alex Paknadel.
But it's sort of, I'd say I try and sort of maintain a balance. So, like, I mean, I do sort of try and boost books that I think are sort of worth looking at. And by the way, I mean, I would just say, I mean, just to add my sort of two penneth, Bog Bodies is just fantastic. I would check that out. Yeah, it really is sort of a wonderful book.
You know what? I was wanting to argue with Declan because I'm sorry, but there are characters in there where you can just spin off. I'm not going to say any more because it would be a spoiler for the book if you do get the chance to read it. But there are certainly at the back end, there are 2 or 3 characters that you could just, I mean, okay, there's a house. What's going on in the house? The people in, you know what I mean? It could just keep going, man. But there we go. That's beside the point. Right.
But sometimes it's more poignant if you don't, you know, sometimes, you know, you leave them wanting more. I don't know. I mean,
well, okay, I wanted more. Right, I've said it. But there we go. Do check. Yeah, that's Bog Bodies by Declan. It is a hell of a book. And the rest of the creative team have done stellar work on it. Alex, thank you so much indeed for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, man.
Okay, and I'd love to
keeping you past an hour.
No worries. I'd love to keep. Well, I'd love to have you back on, and we'll do another one of these. But no, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much indeed, man.
Appreciate it, mate. Cheers for having me.
Excellent stuff. Thank you.
Bye.
So there you go, Alex Paknadel. Do check out his books. Very much worthwhile because I think we've discussed the man. He knows his onions, and he's very much a storyteller. I have been. Okay, I've been slightly hyperbolic, but you know what? I think the hyperbole is deserved and earned. But there we go. Right. Yeah, we're at 2 hours. I do something usually at the end of my show. We usually do a artist of the day. I think I'll save that for our Sunday show. We are also going to be. I will do the spotlight on the crowdfunding, the creator-owned. The efforts for creators to get books out via a different model and through crowdfunding. We'll do that in a second. Just a quick reminder as well about what's happening in terms of the next couple of episodes, considering that, my God, we've finally got ourselves a couple of confirmed names which are finally going to be coming on. Yes, Bill Sienkiewicz has agreed on a date. He's going to be joining us on Wednesday, 24th of June. That is a show which I know I've said is an hour. I'm going to push that fucker as long as I can. I want to talk to that guy. So yes, that's going to be cool. We're going to be doing a cross podcast event, which is the first for our show, which is on Sunday, the 21st of June. That's on with the Con Guy, which is a podcast that's based out of the States. A little bit of a slicker operation than mine, but is very much about convention news and convention updates and pop culture. We're going to do kind of like a cross-pollination kind of thing. We're going to kind of broadcast on both channels. So it's going to be myself and the Con Guy channel. So that's going to be rather cool. And then, like I say, we're going to be having Russ Burlingame and Mike Avilia back on the show for Sunday the 28th. Considering that the last time we had them on, we hadn't had riots in the streets yet. The world is changing at such a breakneck speed. So we hadn't had the DC announcement. We hadn't seen the world changing almost. Look, we've been on for a couple of hours. I don't know. We probably had an alien invasion while I've been on the air, and I've missed it. It's just the way the world is at the moment. So there we go. What I'm going to do now then is talk about a crowdfunding effort, which I am really going to be paying very close attention to because this looks damn cool. This is something that's been put together by the team that let me just see if I can find my page here. It's from the guys that did All We Ever Wanted, which was by A Wave Blue World. My signed copy is in there. I was going to bring it out and I was going to show you to the pages because it's an anthology series, an anthology graphic novel. It won awards quite rightfully for the entire team, edited by Matt Miner and Eric Palicki. It was an amazing book. This is kind of like a sequel to that. It's a follow-on release to this. It's called Maybe Someday, Stories of Promise, Visions of Hope. It's a full-color anthology, and it's currently going out on Kickstarter. The creative team behind it is just astonishing. And the pages look absolutely incredible. If I just go full screen on this, so at least then you can kind of get the sense of it. Many creative team people behind it, which I mean, if you just kind of go down the line, if I just pull up the part of the page, I mean, we'll just one more page just to give you an idea of what is being put behind this book. It just absolutely screams. It's just absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's just an amazing looking book. And if I just bring up the actual Kickstarter page, it'll also kind of give you a sense of who's behind this thing, because the talent is just astonishing. Christopher Mitten and Steve Niles are doing a story. Michael Kupperman, Sally James Johnson, Eric Palicki are putting a story together. Aubrey Citizen is doing this thing. Rod Rees and Matt Miner is going to be an amazing combination. Emily Pearson, Daniel Kibblesmith, Isaac Goodhart, Connor Cudson. I'm not familiar too much of their work, but certainly Isaac Goodhart for the Catwoman tale, just amazing. Ethan Sachs and Jeff Edwards. Now also Anthony Bresnikan, friend of the show. We've had him on. He's a writer for Entertainment Weekly. Very, very clever guy, but knows finger on the pulse. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what Anthony's going to bring to it. Tyler Chintana, Joe Caramagna, Zoe Thorogood is going to be doing some work for this. She's really a talent up and coming. If Alex Paknadel is the guy that has broken through into the mainstream, Zoe's the one that is just over his shoulder. All right, so she's on her way. Keep an eye on that name, Zoe Thorogood, an amazing talent. Martin Simmons, artist for Friendo, which Alex wrote. Then in fact, that's the picture from Alex right there. Also did work for Pugs Not Dead. Amazing. Natasha Al-Sarisi as well. Joe Glass. It's just, it goes on and on and on. It's absolutely amazing. Mario Candelaria, another good friend of the podcast. Great to see him doing something. He's going to be tied up with Sean Daly. And also Philip Savey is doing it. Michael Marisi, another new talent which is coming through, did work on Wasted Space, and it was his birthday a couple of days ago. Happy birthday, Michael. You've got Max Bemis, Ren Famous as well, who did Deadbeats, who I'm a huge fan of online, and I will be a huge ally of Ren Famous till the day I die. It's just an astonishing setup. And yeah, like I say, the actual the team that they've pulled together for this is just incredible. Maybe someday, stories of promise and visions of hope. At the moment, it is 22 days to go. It's I don't know the calculation now. I'm going to go with $20,000, and they're currently at around 10.5. It's yeah. Get on this train is what I'm pretty much saying, because I think this is going to be one hell of a book. Do check that out. Dan Berry is bringing something up. I'm going to have to find out what this says. Unfortunately, I can't click on that link. Sean Thomas is saying he will believe that Bill Sienkiewicz will come on the show when I see him. If I could show you the tweets, he says that's when he's going to come on. I'm crossing my fingers, and I'll keep reminding him. Dan Berry Bresnikan is not with EW anymore. Correct. He was dismissed from the company, but the company let a whole bunch of writers go, and he was one of that team. But yeah, but he knows his stuff. He worked with Entertainment Weekly a lot, and he was one of that team that established Entertainment Weekly as the pop culture news behemoth that it is. But there we go. One more time, if I could just bring up the... in fact, I might just play the video for it as well. Yeah, I think... what shall I do? What shall I do? I think I'm just going to show you very quickly again the tagline for this thing. The address, kickstarter.com/projects/Tina Chintana, who's one of the editors, /maybe-someday. Get on board this train. It's going to be well worth. I think we'll finish this particular broadcast with the playing of the video, because yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile. That's about it. That's me. I mean, we're 2 hours in and we're done and dusted. I know that we've had issues with YouTube, so what I'm going to do is take this video and upload it to YouTube so people can watch it on there. If you are watching on YouTube, comment below, like, subscribe. I'll sort out what the issue was with the way that it went out. I think I know what it was. yeah, we'll see where we go. And I'm also going to chase this story up as well. If you want to head to CBR, Comic Con at Home, SDCC replacement details. It looks like we've got some information about what Comic Con are up to throughout the course of that week in July. I have something in mind, but I can't really say anything too much until I get guests confirmed, and also I get the go-ahead from San Diego Comic-Con, Comic-Con International. I'm never going to tread on their toes. But I've got something in mind. Fingers crossed. So there we go. I'm also going to be on air on Monday, where we're going to be doing the Tripwire Awards. That's actually going to be not on this channel. It's going to be on the Tripwire social media, so on their Twitter, on their YouTube, and on their Facebook. It's where we're going to celebrate the best of basically the last couple of years. If I can, certainly the last year. It's going to be a little bit later than when we'd usually broadcast. We'll be on air now, actually. So 12 midday, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 8 p.m. GMT. We are going to be celebrating some incredible talent with some awards. And I'm going to be booted and suited. And we're going to be having myself and Joel Meadows basically handing out some awards. Looking forward to the Tripwire Awards ceremony online. That's Monday, the 15th of June. So not that long ago. Not long to go. So next Monday. 12 midday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. GMT. Please do join us for that. Right. This Sunday, at the moment, we don't have a guest nailed down. But if I find out more about what this business with Comic-Con at Home is going to be, we may be talking about that a lot. So it may be an episode where we can just take stock, take a moment to breathe. So we'll see what happens. Right. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great to talk to two amazing creative talents. So thank you very much indeed to Declan Shalvey and to Alex Paknadel for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to them. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to play this video because I want you to find out more about Maybe Someday. It's something that we feel is worth your pennies if you can donate and support. So please jump in and support this particular Kickstarter. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And from me to you, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Tyler, and this is Wendy Chin-Tanner, my co-pilot in life as well as at A Wave the World. And this is our littlest one, Lucy. We're here in quarantine, making the best of it, to bring you our latest anthology, Maybe Someday, the sequel to All We Ever Wanted.
Comics have always been at the forefront of imagining how the world can be. Now, more than ever, we need stories of hope to remind us that a brighter future is possible.
Joining us once again are editors Matt Miner and Eric Palicki, who've assembled a team of creators who are as talented and diverse as those who appeared in All We Ever Wanted.
Ah, the drinks are here. So let's drink a toast to maybe someday so that we can imagine a better world and a better tomorrow.
Cheers. And cut.